The elevator jolted and groaned, stopping abruptly between floors. John's heart sank. He was already running late for the meeting of the month, juggling deadlines and his little daughter's school pickup. And now this. A soft, almost nervous sigh came from the corner. He looked up to see his boss, Ms. Reynolds, standing quietly, her usually crisp posture softened by the confined space. The air felt thick, not just with tension but with something unspoken. "I hope you don't mind," she whispered. "I always get nervous in small spaces." Her voice was gentle, almost humanizing, and John felt a strange calm wash over him. He smiled, trying to ease the moment. "Don't worry. I get it." For a few minutes they simply existed in that paused world. No emails, no deadlines, no roles, just two humans. Then, without warning, the elevator shuddered, plunging John's mind into panic. But Ms. Reynolds didn't flinch. Instead, she reached out, placing a steady hand on his arm. "We'll be fine. We're together in this," she said. In that brief whisper, John realized something profound. The powerful, intimidating boss he'd known was not just a title, but a person capable of empathy, patience, and understanding. By the time the elevator resumed, something had shifted. The usual professional distance was gone. John left that day with a new respect, a small smile tugging at his lips, and a heart quietly reminded that humanity, kindness, and connection often appear in the most unexpected moments. The next day, John walked into the office feeling a subtle shift. Ms. Reynolds greeted him with a nod that carried warmth instead of formality. For a moment, he wondered if yesterday had been just a shared anxiety, a fleeting elevator moment. But then, her words during the ride echoed in his mind. "We're together in this." Work was relentless, but John noticed small things he had never seen before. Ms. Reynolds lingered to ask if he was managing well, not just deadlines. She remembered his daughter's recital, casually asking how it went, genuinely interested. It was startling. The same woman who had demanded perfection from everyone suddenly showing a human side, a side that understood struggle. Later, as he stepped out for lunch, John caught her watching him from the office window. Their eyes met, and she offered a small, understanding smile. For the first time, he realized leadership wasn't just about authority. It was about empathy. Then came the day of the unexpected crisis. A junior colleague had made a mistake that could have cost the team a major client. The office panicked, voices rose, and fingers were pointed. John felt the tension knot in his chest, but Ms. Reynolds didn't lash out. Instead, she quietly guided him through a solution, acknowledging his efforts, her calmness grounding the chaos. That evening, as he walked home, John thought about the elevator. How a few whispered words in a confined space had opened a door, not just in the lift, but in understanding people, and seeing beyond titles and stress. The world felt a little lighter, a little more human. And John knew, deep down, that kindness, no matter how small, could ripple far beyond the moment it was given. A week later, John found himself staying late again, buried under reports and deadlines. The office was quiet, except for the faint hum of the air conditioning. He was just about to shut down when Ms. Reynolds appeared in the doorway, holding 2 cups of coffee. "Thought you could use this," she said softly, handing him one. There was no judgment, no pressure, just a simple act of consideration. John accepted it, surprised by the comfort it brought. As they sipped in silence, the conversation drifted naturally, beyond work. Ms. Reynolds shared a story about her own struggles as a single parent, the sacrifices she had made, and the loneliness that sometimes followed her home. John listened, realizing that the confident, strict boss he'd always seen was also vulnerable, carrying burdens she rarely let show. Then came the sudden news: an important client visit had been moved up, and the team was unprepared. Panic surged through the office, but John noticed something different this time. He wasn't frozen by fear. He had a sense of calm. Ms. Reynolds' earlier gestures of humanity had shifted something inside him, a trust, a belief that they could handle this together. He stepped forward, coordinating with his colleagues, offering solutions, and keeping spirits steady. And through it all, Ms. Reynolds was there, not hovering, not demanding, but supporting, nodding, and trusting his judgment. By the end of the day, the client was impressed, the crisis averted. John walked home feeling a quiet pride, but more importantly, a new understanding of people. The whispered reassurance in that elevator had grown into something bigger: respect, empathy, and shared humanity. It was a reminder that acts of kindness, no matter how small, could inspire courage and strengthen others, even in the most unexpected places. A few days later, John's phone buzzed with troubling news. His daughter had fallen ill and wouldn't be able to attend school. Panic set in. He was juggling an important project deadline at work and now this personal crisis. His stomach churned as he thought about calling in sick. Ms. Reynolds noticed his distress the moment he arrived at the office. "Everything okay?" she asked, her tone softer than ever. John hesitated, unsure how much to reveal, but something in her presence made him speak. "My daughter, she's sick," he admitted, voice tight. "I don't know how I'll manage today and meet the deadlines." Without hesitation, Ms. Reynolds said, "Go. Take care of her. I'll handle things here." Her words were simple, but to John, they felt like a lifeline. He had always imagined his boss as untouchable, untamed by emotion, yet here she was, offering trust and support without condition. At home, he tended to his daughter, feeling the tension from work ease for the first time in weeks. He realized that this trust, this kindness, wasn't just a moment, it was a bridge. The next morning, he returned to the office to find Ms. Reynolds smiling knowingly. "Everything went smoothly yesterday," she said. "You did what mattered most." John felt a surge of gratitude. He understood now that true leadership wasn't measured by authority or control. It was measured by humanity, the ability to recognize struggles and lend support. As he sat at his desk, watching his boss quietly handle the team, he reflected on the elevator moment. A whispered reassurance had grown into understanding, trust, and compassion. And John knew that, sometimes, the smallest gestures of kindness could transform lives, creating ripples far beyond what anyone could imagine. Weeks passed, and the bond between John and Ms. Reynolds quietly deepened, not as boss and employee, but as two people who had glimpsed each other's humanity. One evening, the office was nearly empty. John stayed late again, finishing a report. The hum of the lights was comforting, but exhaustion weighed heavily on him. Ms. Reynolds appeared, as if on cue. "Long day?" she asked. He nodded, rubbing his eyes. She smiled softly. "I wanted to say, I noticed how you handled everything recently. The client crisis, the team, your own struggles. You've shown patience and integrity. Not everyone does." John felt a warmth rise in his chest. Praise from her wasn't just professional, it felt personal, meaningful. And then she paused, almost shyly. "You know, the way you stayed calm in the elevator that day, it stayed with me. It reminded me that empathy isn't weakness. It's strength." In that moment, John understood fully. The whispered words in a trapped elevator had sparked a transformation, not just in their working relationship, but in themselves. Small acts of kindness, courage, and understanding could resonate far beyond a single moment. He looked at her and smiled. "I never realized how much a few words could matter," he said. Ms. Reynolds nodded. "Me neither. And maybe that's the lesson. We all carry struggles, but compassion can change the way we face them." As John walked out that evening, the city lights reflecting off the wet pavement, he felt lighter, inspired. He thought of his daughter, of colleagues, of strangers he might meet, and realized that humanity was contagious. A whisper, a smile, a helping hand, it could change everything. And sometimes, the smallest moments became the most powerful stories of all.